All right, hello, welcome everybody. Welcome back to our monthly Fuse Live session. We are the Fellowship Using the Science of Engagement here at UT Austin. Hopefully you are, I'm assuming everybody right now, if you're watching live, you're either watching on LinkedIn or Substack. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm the director of the Fellowship. I'm joined here by Christian Langford today also. She's one of our facilitators. And we join you just about every month. So if we've got anybody that's come back for more, welcome back. If this is your first time watching one of our webinars, thank you so much. I'm actually going to turn on a QR code here also, that as you are listening and watching today, if this is resonating with you and you want to hear about additional steps of how we could either work with your district or your campus, you might have teachers that want to join our fellowship. Click that QR code right there. We'll also share some links at the end of how you can get in touch with us. We are in the midst right now of finishing our current group of teachers from around the country who are joining us in our fellowship this year. And we're onboarding a bunch of new teachers as well to get started this coming June. And each month we take a relatively deep dive in one element of the fellowship. The last few months we've talked about some of the teacher practices that fellows engage with throughout their learning cycle with us. But today we want to take a look at some of the student pieces. So I often talk about Fuse as having three legs of a stool. It's a network that teachers build of like-minded folks from around the US and Europe. Also, we have teachers from across the Atlantic as well this year. So they're definitely building their network of other teachers. And then they're also engaging with some professional development teacher practices around how we frame our language with a deeper understanding of adolescent engagement and motivation. And then that third piece is the student element. So students in each of the Fuse teachers classes complete 3 interventions. So we call them student engagement modules during a school year. And what they are is what we're here to talk about today. It's an opportunity for students to learn how their brain works. They learn a lot about mindset development, different ways that memory recall is reinforced through different practices that teachers do, and also about reframing stress. And that's what we're here for today. And after each of those interventions, the teachers in our program get a pretty in-depth report on the perception of the culture of learning in their class. So we have a lot of data on our website, but I want to highlight just a couple. I'm going to go ahead and make this screen big for everybody. One of the first pieces of data that we want to share today is as we measure student responses and student perspective of their classrooms, we're excited to always say that Fuse teachers have student-rated classrooms that are 10% more respectful and a great reduction in reporting a sense of anxiety. We're going to be talking a lot about math today. Most of the teachers in our program are math teachers, but we also have teachers from other subjects as well. So we're always looking at different ways to help teachers create cultures where students feel more of a sense of belonging, more at ease when they're encountering difficult content. And as we know, many students view math or view struggle or view a kind of performance they have coming up as potentially anxiety producing. And we work with ways to not only reduce that, but better understand those feelings that we're having in that moment. Another data point throughout these interventions that students do is we also measure their math outcomes. And students in our Fuse teachers classrooms are scoring 15% higher on math tests. And we measure that throughout the fellowship experience. So that is not just a one-time thing, that maintains, throughout the fellowship as well. So it's not a math pedagogical fellowship that our teachers are in, but we're always excited to see when our behavioral and motivational science approach to how we frame math and frame anxiety and frame mistakes in a classroom leads to higher math performance as well. And the big kind of idea around what our teachers are learning and implementing and with how they frame their language, and also with what we're showing students about what's happening within their bodies when they're encountering something that could be stressful, is we want to help folks create an environment where young people are entering into that stress response, whether it's a test, whether it's a performance, whether it is making that decision in the moment, like I'm not sure how to do this, but should I take that risk and raise my hand and ask the teacher a question, ask for help, take a chance and maybe make a mistake in front of my peers? How can I enter into that potentially stressful situation with a challenge type response versus a threat type response? Throughout Fuse, we maintain that the best way to show young people that we respect them and that we see them in high status is that we keep our demands high. We keep that rigor and that level of expectation on academic performance as high as we need it to be, in our classroom. Of course, that level is different for everybody, but the best way to show respect for a young person is to keep that demand high, show them that we believe they can meet that challenge. We're going to be here to support them and provide them resources, but we're not going to lower our demands in order to take away that stress, because that's how we learn and grow, and that's what students learn in the interventions as well. But if we know what happens in the body if we enter into that stress response thinking of it as a threat. So whenever that level of expectation or those demands are higher than the resources that we believe and perceive are there for us, we make an appraisal, right? Like, how am I going to respond to this stress? And if there's a mismatch there, then we know that young people enter into more of an I can't do this appraisal of that situation. Blood vasculature, that means your blood vessels constrict and you have less blood being pumped to your brain. You have blood rushing to the center of your body. Your cortisol is spiking. Your testosterone is lowering, exact opposite of what we want to have happen in a stressful situation. We produce more anxiety. We feel more of a sense of I don't belong in this advanced class, or I'm not ready for this, or I'm going to I'm not going to see this opportunity I have to perform as a way to show what I know, but but I'm more perceiving it's going to be a way that I'm going to be embarrassed, or I'm not going to be able to meet that demand. And of course, our performance is worse. It's not just young people, as adults too. If we enter into a stressful situation thinking that we don't have the resources that we believe we need, then we're going to assume the worst. We're going to assume we're not going to do well. But if we can flip that switch for the students in our classes to keep that demand high, but create a perception in them that the resources match it, then through all of our research here at UT and other projects that we've run in the past, we know the young people enter into that with a stress response is more seeing it as a challenge. I can do this. My blood vasculature does not dilate. It stays dilated. It stays open. Blood's rushing through my body, going to my brain where I need it in that moment. My cortisol stays low. My testosterone actually boosts and goes higher in that moment, which is where we need it. There's less anxiety, and I have more of a belief that I'm going to perform better, that I have the resources that I need to do my best in that moment. And a key way to do that is to know that the trusted adult in my life, whether it's a parent, a teacher, a coach, anybody like that, if I know that they believe I have the ability and they are going to support me along the way, then I'm going to enter into that moment in that challenge type response as we want. So like I said, today our goal, Christian and I, over the next 20, 25 minutes or so, is to take a look at these student pieces that they do in classrooms of Fuse teachers. So students do 3 student engagement modules throughout the school year, really to help establish that culture of learning. They do one right at the beginning of the school year. They do one in the early fall, kind of between Labor Day and Thanksgiving. And then they do the third one right when students come back from winter break. That third one is really to help kind of prime everybody for what we know are oftentimes some potentially stressful stressors that happen in the spring semester, whether it could be state exams, SAT tests, AP exams, big performances, big games, things like that. And 3 key pieces of what we want students to learn in these interventions is really addressing what many of them have mistaken beliefs about learning. So that belief that if I encounter a difficult concept, a difficult test, a difficult project, the reason that this is difficult and I might not know how to do it right off the bat is because I shouldn't be here. Making mistakes means that I'm the only one making those mistakes. Everybody else is getting this. I'm not going to raise my hand and ask for help because I'm afraid that I might feel embarrassed in that moment. My fellow student, oftentimes we see that our students are even more afraid of looking weak or making a mistake in front of their peers as their teacher. So really, we educate them and show them, that the way that we do grow and learn, the way that we have that mindset that we want, is through taking those chances, taking those risks, taking a chance. And that's what shows you belong in an advanced class is the ability to take a risk and take a chance. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be there. And we do that by revealing how our brains grow and develop, especially during adolescence. And just that mind opener to 15-year-old, that the reason that I'm feeling that need to not be embarrassed is not meaning that there's something wrong with me. It means that's a natural thing, that as we enter into puberty and lead down that path towards adulthood, the purpose that we have and our bodies are tuned to start having a need to be seen as a contributor and be seen as somebody that is adding value to my class. And if as teachers, we can make sure that we have an environment where making a mistake is seen as a value add to the culture in that classroom, is seen as helping your colleagues grow or helping the class itself get to that next level, as opposed to making a mistake being seen as slowing everybody down or maybe inadvertently feeling embarrassed or demeaned by either a fellow student or the teacher. And we can help show that the way that you contribute in a math classroom or any other classroom is taking those chances, taking those risks. And then finally, we spend a lot of time talking with students, young people, about this idea that stress does not have to be seen as debilitating. That feeling that you have when you're about to take an exam and you're feeling your palms are sweaty, your knees are weak, all these things, doesn't mean that there's something wrong. That's actually your body getting ready to do something challenging. So putting that in student-friendly language and helping them see and better understand some of these things that are happening in their body, we know leads to a change in their mindset about how they are going to encounter that challenge. But it's so important that as adults, then we back that up and we help with that reframe by the way that we communicate with them. So backing up just a little bit, students do 3 of these interventions during the school year, and they really serve 2 purposes. One, there's a lot of learning for the students in there. And then the other piece is we want the adults who are working with them to get some feedback along the way on that perception in their class. Are these tweaks that I'm making in how I communicate with my students having an effect on lowering the amount of anxiety in my classroom, on making students see making a mistake as a value add versus taking away from the learning of others? So throughout the fellowship, like I said, the students do it 3 times a year. Then teachers get these reports where we measure, the different messages and the impact that those are having on their class. And then we kind of follow a kind of a basic plan, do, study, adjust approach to it. So at our PLIs, those are professional learning institutes, and our virtual coaching meetings, teachers get the data back usually before that. And then we get a chance to talk about them at those sessions. They go back then and maybe make some tweaks, about how they're adjusting their framing of different moments in the classroom, how they're talking to their students about their own growth and development and looking to improve the culture in their class. That's something Christian's going to talk to us about here in a few minutes. And then, we discuss the reports, like I said, during the PLIs, and then we adjust. We continue to make improvements and make tweaks. The things teachers really learn in Fuse is not something you ever master, as an adult. If you're a parent, like most of us are here on the call, that when you're parenting your own adolescents, it's a continual cycle of adjustment, how we're talking about things, how we're building a level of respect in our own cultures, in our homes. And it's the same thing in our classrooms. So what I want to do now is actually take a look at one of the teacher reports. So what we're going to show you is just sample data, but this is the actual report that teachers receive during the program. They get them 3 times a year after each of those different modules that the students do. And we just want to take a few minutes and look through what one looks like. I'm going to go over some of the nuts and bolts in it itself. And then Christian's going to talk about kind of teacher, how she would incorporate this into her instruction and her time with her students. Now let's go back up right here. So everybody gets their own report. We deliver this to our teachers through Canvas. That's the learning management system that we use throughout the fellowship. And we base, we ground everything within Fuse, within our culture of learning pyramid. How are we aligning the way we communicate our beliefs and values? Do those policies and procedures that we have, like our grading policy, our retest policy, the way that we run our reteach and our tutoring opportunities. And then it all comes down to how are we better understanding adolescent development and how we can frame our language to take advantage of that development that's going along. And I think we have somebody on here too that can maybe put a direct link to this sample report. It's on our website, though we'll make sure that if you're watching this recording, you can just scroll down into the show notes and you'll see a link to this report so you can follow along as well. But as you can see, just a little bit of background on the report. We know that adolescents are highly attuned to classroom cultures. They pay attention to whether they feel respected and disrespected. They feel more respected when our classroom cultures convey that all students can learn and grow. So the crux of the report, is really we ask the students, what is not only your perception of the culture in your classroom, but what are your classmates' perception? So it's not just a one person's feeling. It's not only their feeling, but it's also how they think their fellow adolescents perceive that class. So we get, just some basic data about how many students in class take it. And then we get down here into actually what we're measuring with students. So 3 key things we want to help teachers see, if the students in their class perceive that he or she, their teacher, rejects an all or nothing view of math ability. And again, if you're a science teacher, English teacher, it'd be your content area. And is there a belief in the classroom that the teacher believes all students can be very good at that content area? And then finally, do students feel comfortable revealing mistakes? And I'll show you at the end some of the ways we ask those questions to get to this data. So just basic bar chart here. So in this sample data, 69% of the students in the class, believe that their teacher rejects an all or nothing view of math ability. 79% believe that their teacher believes all students can be very good at math. And in this data, only 23% of the students in class feel that it's a safe place to reveal a mistake. So obviously that is something that we would want to adjust, work throughout a school year to try to change that idea. You can look through down here, kind of a little more detail about all these 3 dimensions, that we're looking at. And then we correlate that data to 3 other, key changes that we're trying to make, because we know that these 3 things build a stronger culture of learning. So that feeling of respect, right? Throughout Fuse, we always fall back on the way that we help students feel respected is we keep those demands high, but especially during adolescence, they need to feel that the level of support and the belief their teacher believes that they can meet those high demands. But it's hard to create like an intervention just to, okay, I want all my students to feel respected. All right, that's great. That's what we want. But how do we do that? Like, we believe that the way we do that is we change and improve these 3 perceptions. So by creating a belief that my teacher rejects, all or nothing view of math ability, and then my teacher believes then that all students can be successful, and my teacher believes that students or I create an environment where students feel comfortable revealing mistakes, then I'm going to have a higher percentage of my students feeling respected. So these are correlated graphs. So that's why they don't add up to 100. They're correlated back up to these bar charts up here. So what you're seeing here is that 77% of this 69% of students feel respected in this teacher's classroom. So we know that if we can raise the number of students who believe their teacher rejects that all or nothing view, we're going to have more students feeling respected. Same thing with these other 2 that I've talked about already. All right, and we got a little more detail we can look through here about interpreting these 3 points as well. Another change that we're trying to help partner with and collaborate with teachers all over is to create an environment where students feel more at ease in their classroom. a lowering of anxiety. That belief that I'm not lowering anxiety because I'm lowering my demands. I'm lowering anxiety because I'm raising that perception of support. So again, 46% of the students who believed their teacher rejects that all or nothing view of math are also reporting that they feel at ease in that class. So again, here's where we want to focus on our behavior change, and this is the outcome that we want. So that's one way. That's one way we look at it often. Like, these are the changes that we want to make, structural changes in the perception of the young people in our classrooms, and this is the outcome that we're looking to improve. And then finally, we know also that the more interested our students are in whatever subject it is, the better they're going to perform. And we know that if we can adjust these three things again, it's a safe place to make mistakes, belief that everybody can be successful, all or nothing viewing, all or nothing view of math or whatever subject, that a higher number of those students are going to be interested. Students want to be challenged. They don't show it all the time, but they do. And that we're primed as an adolescent going through puberty to be seeking challenge, taking risks, trying new things. Think of all the things you did for the first time between the ages of 10 and 25. And that's the time where we take risks, take challenges, figure out who we are. We don't see that, though, all the time within the classroom. So we have young people that take huge risks outside the classroom. They come in, and then they're not willing to take a chance and raise their hand. We see them take huge risks, be superstars on the athletic field, but then they come into the classroom and their levels of anxiety spike. Okay, so those are our three kind of key outcomes, that we're looking to improve the way we measure them. Down here in the appendix, before I turn it over to Christian to kind of talk through in the classroom what this would look like, how it could be useful. We have a few samples of the types of questions that we do ask the students. Again, we ask them 3 times a year. So my math teacher believes that some students are smart at math and others are not. My math teacher believes everybody in my class can be very good at math. Or my math class, a lot of students hope they will not be called on because they're afraid they might say something wrong. Students in my math class feel like our teacher treats them with respect. So you can get a sense of the types of questions that we're asking students in the classrooms. But Christian, might turn it over to you now. So Christian, you have been thinking through, as in a math classroom or any classroom really, as a teacher who is a Fuse fellow, and your students know that you're in this fellowship and you're learning these things. How might you use this report with them?
I feel that this report is, it's for the teacher and the student. It might not feel that obvious when you're looking at a report like this, but all the teachers need to understand that, this is data for both sides of things. And whenever you get this data back, especially the first time, I can kind of get a sense of some teachers feeling like, oh, this is a negative thing. I didn't want to be perceived this way. But understand that so many of our students right now are coming to you prior to Fuse. And I don't want to say they have baggage, but they've had teachers that don't understand some of the things that the teachers currently in Fuse get the opportunity to understand and to change. And with knowing that, I think that this data, each time that this is given to students, should be shared back with them. And specifically the very first time, it's great to have a conversation and to be very transparent in the classroom and explain, these are the questions you were asked. I have the data, and you're not going to individualize anybody and point any student out in one-on-one, but just as a whole group, it's just a great conversation starter that I feel, just to see, you felt this way. Why do you feel this way? What has happened in your past math classrooms? Because this is an opportunity for them to share things that they did and didn't like that other teachers might have done that, for lack of better words, scarred them. And right now we're just trying to heal them to get them comfortable in our classrooms. And there's never been an opportunity for a teacher to actually see this. And so the way that it is layered, it's like you have students that, one that sticks out to me the most is the last one, where it's students aren't afraid to make mistakes in the class. But then whenever you go down to the little lollipop graph, and then you look at those same students, and I think it's the last one. seeing that the ones that said that they were comfortable making mistakes in class, then they also have the yeses. That's the lowest whenever it comes to, I'm sorry, I'm squinting. Yeah, the ones that are interested in the actual math classroom. And so it's just a great conversation starter, just to be like, wow. But then the ones that are more interested, they're also the ones that are feeling that they can make mistakes. It's just a lot to dive into. But looking at this data and the way the questions are phrased, it's something where, at the very beginning of the school year, you can put a warm up with these questions and just let the conversation flow. And then that also spills over to the practices in Fuse as it kind of develops as the years go on. Not years, but as the months go on. And it spills over to the next year, though, honestly. It keeps going.
Yeah, that's a piece that, we measure, students, throughout the next couple of years, as well. We often ask for that data to see what's the stickiness, level of their understanding of what they learn in the modules, not just the feedback they're giving teachers, but also how it's helping them reframe their ideas of stress and better understand their own kind of mindset development. Christian, I got a question. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this one ahead of time, but so hopefully you can maybe answer it on the spot. But I know, like, when I was in the classroom and teachers I've worked with in other roles, like, you rarely see teachers talk to their students about their own professional learning, like what workshops they've gone to, what they're working on improving, in their own practice over the year. Two things, like, why do you think that is? And then, like, what kind of impact do you think that might have on, especially like a 6th through 9th grader, for a teacher to be more transparent about, what they're working on this year, what they're learning, what they're trying to improve?
You're going to get more out of your students when you show yourself as human, I feel. And as a professional, we kind of got this notion as teachers as like, I need to know everything and not even show my weakness. And that's a cultural thing as well. So at the same time, our students need to break that habit. Teachers sometimes do as well. And to admit, I don't know everything. It's like, I'm top notch with the curriculum I'm teaching you, but I can always do better. And at the same time, it's like explaining to the students, like, I'm in this program of Fuse in order to help in these areas. I just feel like it's just being transparent is only going to help everything. That's how you have those awkward conversations about, like, if someone's uncomfortable about something, or, I mean, the little things of someone's going to fight in your class, anything, like, to be that person that a student can actually come up to and communicate. That's how the growth actually happens. And essentially that's also going to happen whenever you share the growth you're doing as a professional. I really feel that it's the stigma about don't ever make a mistake, and mistakes are bad. But teachers have to break that habit in order for the students to do it as well.
Yeah. And I think, oftentimes when we're talking about, like, behavior changes we're making, whether it's teachers with students or principals with teachers or family, anybody, whenever we're trying to improve something about ourselves, which is really what a lot of Fuse is. It's looking for ways to improve the way we build a culture around academics in our class. You want the people that you're leading or communicating with to recognize your changes. Right. So a lot of times we do all this work. We do all this, like, internal work. We read these books, do these fellowships, but we never tell anybody about it. And then maybe they notice some tweaks, but they don't know that we recognize also in ourselves that those are things that we want to improve. We want to serve other people better. Mm-hmm. So I always recommend that, especially later in my career, I think I tried to start doing that more of being more transparent about what I was actually trying to improve, because I wanted them to see that really two pieces. I wanted them to notice, because Fuse teachers put in the work, to think through how am I talking about tests? How am I talking about stress? We want everybody that we then serve and receive that change to notice it, so they can help us by giving us feedback. I can see definitely sharing this with my students and saying my big goals this year is like, I want our culture to be a place where you believe that I have the mindset that everybody can be very good at math. And we want to build a culture in this classroom where revealing a mistake, is seen as contributing to the learning, not just of that person, but of all the other students sitting around them. And being transparent about that from day one, like that's something that we're trying to build and we're trying to grow, is going to make it so much more likely that you're actually going to be able to do that, as opposed to being super subtle and just kind of hinting around about these changes, especially with teenagers. Because if anybody's ever been around a teenager, you've got to tell them things multiple times. So I think just that transparency from day one. We always tell the Fuse Fellows, yes, tell your students you're in this fellowship. Tell them these are the things that you're working on. Be just upfront and answer their questions. And again, I love how you talked about kind of not interrogating, but interviewing them about their past experiences, especially because I know, Christian, you taught high school. Like, you have no idea the sense of identity that's been built up from 6 or 7 or 8 different teachers, around a certain content area that they've had.
It's essentially, if you think of like the dating world, it's like I'm your new teacher and you're coming to me with your guards up, and it's like, relax. It's like the first time they walk in the door and they don't believe what you're saying. It's like, I hear you. Every teacher says that they want me to be good in math. Every person says this, but it's like, if that student presents that to you and says, all my teachers say the same thing, and then this happens, this right here, this data, having the students understand that you're going to respect their time, you're going to have them go through this, but on the back end, you're also showing you care because now you're going through this data. So many times there are students that take tests or a district has them, we're going to do this survey. And, as even a teacher, it's like, okay, what became of that survey? I did this. And then what? And so if you want your students to feel respected and you have a conversation and you show them this data that is not perfect, and that's supposed to be a reflection of you as a teacher, but then you express to them, we're going to take this again. We're even going to take it again after winter break. And my goal is to see improvement, but I want your honesty. And each time we're going to discuss this. But the key part is understanding where they came from, because I think a lot of us assume that we know, even with our top-notch, the A++ student, just understanding that they also come to us in honors and GT classes with a lot of this anxiety and this stress and the fear of making mistakes. But a lot of times we look at them as like, oh, well, I don't have to worry about you because you always do so well. But this is just another way of just looking at these different pieces and these questions, kind of break that wall down. That first month, I mean, it's math, and they walk in and they're like, oh, here we go again. And we don't want that same situation year after year after year.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So our challenge for you all watching, or whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording, whether you're in Fuse already or not, I'm guessing most are not yet. And whether you're a teacher or if you're a teacher, like I would challenge everybody, just like over the next, you got a few months left in this school year, pick a group of kids and ask them some of these questions. You've got this report, there's some good questions at the end. And my hunch is that you might get a kind of confused pause right when you ask them, because teenagers aren't used to being asked like real deep reflective questions about from the adults in their lives about how they can improve their interactions with them. Usually it's oftentimes it's us telling them what to do. It's us, lecturing, teaching, in the hallway, asking where they're going, telling them to get to class. There's like all this stuff that is like constantly we're telling them what to do. And just taking a moment and asking them, how can I get better? Here's some things that I learned about in this webinar that I'm thinking about maybe joining this fellowship. And these are the kinds of questions that I want to know from my students so I can make some adjustments in that culture. And especially what we talk about, when I talk about culture, it's about the culture of that moment when you're in the midst of teaching and learning. We want a great culture when all the kids are coming in the door. We want to be shaking hands and saying hi and making it a safe place where you feel comfortable. But we want that comfort level to track over to when you've got a super complex, highly rigorous project or assessment or new standards that you're learning. So we want to take that and then make sure that it stays at that same level when we're in that potentially difficult or stressor moment with our young people. All right, so that's everybody's challenge. If you're a principal watching or a superintendent or something like that, I would do the same thing with the teachers. That question, I would think, is my campus a place where teachers can make a mistake, and reveal it and help others learn from that mistake? Or is it a place where, we hide our mistakes? We do everything we can to like prolong that mistake coming out, or it's making a mistake is seen as not a value add, that maybe the teacher down the hall then won't make that same mistake. And it's a safe place that I can talk to my assistant principal or my principal about it. Especially if I'm like a new teacher, and I want to be able to take a chance on something or try something new, and maybe it's not going to go perfect that first time. Is this the kind of place, do I have the kind of culture where I can take that risk and it'll be seen as valuable? It'll be seen as a learning opportunity. All right, so before we run off for today, do want to just do a quick nuts and bolts about how to join Fuse. If what you heard today is intriguing, we've got a whole bunch of other stuff online. Christian and I do these webinars almost every month where we've talked about different practices that folks learn. But want to just real quick take us back over to, did I lose my slides? There they are. So learning more about how to join this coming summer, there's that QR code. I think it's in the upper left or right of your screen right now. You can scan that and we'll reach out and get in touch. But the way Fuse works is it's a fellowship, teachers from all around the country. We start off with a super high energy, fun professional learning institute that takes place June 16th through 18th here in Austin on the campus at UT. You can see Christian right there in the bottom middle photo, but there's also Amalia and Charles in the top, Sergio on the left. Those are other facilitators that we have on our team. So everybody either comes live in person on June 16th through 18th, or if you're somewhere where you can't make that trip, we also have a wonderful facilitation online happening at the same time. It's not just like a live stream. We have, dedicated facilitators, and there'll be a bunch of teachers who are online as well. But it's a great place to build that network. You learn your first few practices. I didn't mention Dr. David Yeager. He's our lead scientific director here at UT, author of 10 to 25, has led all the research and everything. He'll be there talking with everybody. We'll have panels. It'll be super high energy, lots of fun to get to know one another. Like I said, 2.5 day kickoff event, June 16th through 18th. During the school year, you do 2 virtual full day institutes. One is in October, one is in February. Those are full day sessions where we're all virtually online, different activities. You learn additional practices. You look at those teacher reports, for the students in your class, think through different ways to make adjustments and tweaks. Everything you learn in Fuse, like I said, it's not a curriculum in the sense of it's not a subject-based curriculum. So we talk a lot about math because most of our teachers in it are math teachers, but we have teachers from other content areas as well. We're not going to show you like a new way to teach a certain standard or a certain concept, but we are going to talk about different ways to frame our language about things like exams and mistakes, build a culture around academics with an adolescent development lens in mind. We're going to talk about, when you spiral content, how are you framing your communication around why we spiral content? How can we implement different ideas that we know spark memory retrieval in the brain? So it's a lot about brain science, a lot about motivational science, but it's really applicable to any classroom. Mainly secondary, 6th through 12th grade is where we focus. So two full day institutes during the year. In between those are 4 virtual coaching meetings. Those take about an hour. Again, it's a way to get everybody back together, talk through one of the practices, see how they're things you're noticing, things you're wondering in your class, based on some of those tweaks that you've made. You won't miss any school or class time for those though. Those take place. We give you a bunch of options over a week. You either join, if you're an early bird, you can join earlier in the morning, or if you want to join after work, you could do that as well. I talked about the student engagement modules. That's all we've been talking about today, but we've got a slide on that as well. One thing maybe I didn't mention is they do take about one class period each. So they are available in English or Spanish. They're also available audio, or your students can read them. Everything is audio in English, audio in Spanish, or students can read them. Takes about 45 minutes. Older students go a little quicker. Younger students takes them a little longer. But we've been doing this several years now, and they're built so they can really be applicable for anybody from that like 6th to 12th grade grade span. One piece too is you earn a Fuse honorarium during the fellowship. The way that the finances work is either your campus or your district pays the tuition for you to join, but then out of that, we pay you back $1,000. So you earn $500 at the end of the first semester, $500 at the end of the second. So that's really to honor your contribution to not only expanding, but also improving the fellowship, helping us improve our delivery, our content. We're continually learning things from all of our Fuse fellows about how to make this not only like a better experience, being there and like the activities and everything, but also better understanding of your students, and how you perceive the cultures in your classroom as well. If you're a principal or a superintendent watching this, we also have an executive leadership series where 4 times throughout the year, we invite all of the central office and campus leaders to online sessions. Dr. Yeager with different special guests that we have both from UT and other universities who have really taken a lot of this work and are using it in leadership positions as well. So like as a principal, when you're having some of those difficult conversations that you do have with staff, or as a superintendent with your teams or principals. So it's an opportunity to learn a little bit about what your teachers are experiencing, but also some experience for you as well to think through, how can I embrace more of that mentor mindset is what we call the mindset that we take into what either the culture in our classroom or the culture in our organization, where the demands do stay high and rigorous and where we need to be, because we know that's how we show people respect, but the level of support is perceived to match that high level. If anybody's ever had the experience of working on a really high performing team with a leader on that team that, is keeping the pedal down, but everybody is rallying around, that culture and that demand. My hunch is that's because you had a high performing leader, but you also had a high expectation, but that level of support that you felt and that level of a safety to take a chance and try something is where we're shooting for with that culture of learning. So the Executive Leadership Series is a great opportunity to take some of this learning and expand it into different areas of your organization. There's no cost involved with that. That's included with any district or campus that joins. And since you're here watching today, we'll even invite you to our next one. So the next leadership series, the last couple, we invite others that are thinking about joining Fuse for next year. So on April 15th, Dr. Mary Murphy, who's a key part of our team as well, she's the author of Cultures of Growth. If you've seen that book, came out a couple of years ago. Really a lot of the same concepts that we talk about in Fuse at the classroom level, she takes that at the organizational level as well. She's actually through the University of Indiana. And like I said, has been a great member of our team. That link right there, and I'll probably put something out on our Substack as well. If you just go to that link, click on Leadership Series, you can register, and we'll make sure you get added to that invite when it goes out. All right, so it's like 11:45, so we want to keep these about 45 minutes. Our ask, other than maybe interviewing a student or two between now and the end of the year, or a teacher or two about, is this a place that we feel comfortable making mistakes, is to think about what we shared today. Take a look at some of our other webinars and videos if you want to learn more. But we would love for you to join our fellowship this coming school year. We kick off in June. We'll have teachers from all over who are excited about really diving into this work, getting a deep dive in adolescent development science, and then really thinking through ways that we can use that science, that research that's been done, but take it from, just books and binders. There's not as many binders as there used to be, but throughout most of my career, I'd go to some kind of training or something, and I'd just come home with a binder. So we're moving beyond the binder and taking the research and putting it, into actual practices that teachers can implement throughout their entire school year. So you can either click or scan that QR code right there. You can book a call. We can talk through the next steps. That other QR code that on there too, you can scan that. You can also email us, fuse@austin.utexas.edu, and we can talk through how to join. All right, so that's what we have for today. I want to thank Christian for joining us today. Give us a wave, Christian. Thank you for spending some time with us. If you're watching this on Substack, please share it with a friend. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe there. If you're listening to this on our podcast, make sure you go to our Substack as well. You can get all the content. We'll share this slide deck. We'll share the sample report and ways to get in touch, and hopefully join us this coming summer. So thank you, everybody. Make it a great rest of your week. And if you got spring break coming up soon, hopefully it is a restful and exciting one. All right. Thank you, everybody.